In the rugged frontier, a single wrong move is all it takes to end your life. These bounty hunters thought they cornered a frail old man for an easy payday. They were dead wrong. Because he wasn't begging for mercy, he was warning them that the West's deadliest gunslinger was about to turn this valley into a graveyard. The story begins in the countryside of Missouri during a time when the Civil War is tearing America apart. We see a farmer named Josey Wales, a man who leads a peaceful life with a happy family consisting of his wife and young son. Every morning, Josey wakes up early to work hard in his fields, growing everything his family needs to survive. His little boy always tags along to help, filling Josey with immense pride because his son is so obedient and hard-working at such a young age. Josey knows in his heart that when the boy grows up, he will become a truly good person. One day, while they are out in the field, Josey's wife calls out to the child, wanting him to come inside so she can feed him and get some help around the house. The boy initially resists, proudly stating that he is busy helping his father, but Josey gently explains that he needs to help his mother too. Listening to his father, the little boy turns and heads back toward the house. Suddenly, Josey notices a massive plume of thick smoke rising in the distance, unable to comprehend what is happening. Within moments, the terrifying sound of galloping horses echoes from every direction, and he realizes that a violent paramilitary group is descending upon his land. He drops everything and runs desperately toward his home, only to see a ruthless gang of pro-Union militants known as the Redlegs, led by a cruel commander named Captain Terrell. By the time Josey reaches his property, his entire house has been set ablaze. He can hear his little boy screaming for help from inside the burning structure, but the militants do not care. Instead, they drag his wife out of the house as she screams in terror. Josey charges forward frantically to save his family, but before he can reach them, one of the men strikes him violently across the head. Knocked to the ground and slipping into unconsciousness, the last things Josey hears are the agonizing screams of his wife and child. The militants torture and murder his wife, leaving the entire home to burn to ashes before riding off toward their next target without a single scratch on their foreheads. When Josey finally opens his eyes, he is met with a nightmare. His entire world has been reduced to ashes, and his family is gone. Broken from the inside, he painstakingly digs a grave to bury the remains of his loved ones and perform their last rites. Overwhelmed by grief, he unearths a gun and begins firing bullets wildly into the air, contemplating whether he should just end his own life since he has nothing left to live for. As he sits submerged in deep thought, the sound of approaching horses catches his attention once again. A group of Confederate guerrilla fighters, led by a man named Bloody Bill Anderson, rides up and instantly understands the tragedy that took place. Bloody Bill explains that they are fighting back against the Union forces responsible for these atrocities, and they are currently heading toward Kansas. He invites Josey to join their ranks. Driven by a singular consuming desire to send the monsters who slaughtered his family into the Valley of Death, Josey accepts the offer and joins them, his heart consumed by pure rage. As time passes, the guerrillas ride from town to town, engaging in fierce battles. While the other men are fueled by political parties, wartime policies, and their visions for the future under a new government, Josey remains entirely silent and detached. He has absolutely no interest in politics or government mandates. His only focus is Captain Terrell. Josey lives solely to hunt down the man who destroyed his life, planning to end his own existence once that vengeance is fulfilled. Eventually, Bloody Bill is killed, and a man named Fletcher becomes their new leader as the fighting rages on. Months later, word arrives that the Civil War has finally ended. While the victorious Union government is technically their enemy, the weary soldiers are relieved that the bloodshed is over and that they can finally return home to live peaceful lives with their families. But Josey has no family and nowhere to go, and to make matters worse, the very man he is hunting is now part of the ruling authority. Fletcher informs the men that he has negotiated a deal with the government, explaining that they must travel to a Union camp to surrender their weapons, after which they will be granted amnesty and free to live their lives. Josey firmly refuses, reminding Fletcher that he hasn't forgotten the atrocities committed against them, and declares that he will never shake hands with the enemy. While Josey watches from a distance, a young guerrilla named Jamie decides to follow Fletcher and the rest of the men into the Union surrender camp. There, Fletcher is introduced to the Union commanding officer, who turns out to be none other than Captain Terrell. Disgusted, Fletcher calls Terrell a demon who has destroyed countless innocent families, but the Union general dismisses the past and orders the men to hand over their weapons. When asked if everyone has arrived, Fletcher admits that one man named Josey Wales refused to come. Sensing the growing tension, Josey watches the camp closely from afar and realizes the horrific truth. the Union forces never intended to grant amnesty. It was a trap to gather the defenseless rebels in one place and slaughter them. Suddenly, the Union soldiers opened fire with a Gatling gun, ruthlessly mowing down Josey's former comrades. Seeing the massacre, Josey charges into the camp on horseback, unleashing a storm of gunfire to save whoever he can. Amidst the chaos, he spots Jamie, who is badly wounded but still breathing. Josey pulls the young boy onto his horse and gallops away into the jungle just as the government declares them wanted fugitives with a massive bounty on their heads. The two run for their lives through the wilderness until they reach a small settlement, where Josey buys food and medicine to treat Jamie's worsening wounds. To escape the closing net, they need to cross a wide river using a ferry. Josey pays the ferryman, loads their horses and gear, and prepares to cross. Just then, a group of Union soldiers arrives at the riverbank to capture them. Instead of panicking, Josey calmly waits until the soldiers get onto a trailing barge, and then he accurately shoots the pull rope, sending the enemy drifting helplessly down the river. They manage to escape, but Jamie is losing strength rapidly. Later on, two ruthless bounty hunters track them down and corner them, demanding that Josey drop his weapons. While one hunter keeps his gun trained on Josey, the other walks over to the seemingly helpless Jamie to disarm him. The moment the hunter pulls back the blanket, Jamie uses his hidden pistol to shoot him dead, allowing Josey to instantly draw and eliminate the second bounty hunter. That night, under a torrential downpour, Josey builds a makeshift shelter to keep the boy comfortable, but when he returns from scouting the perimeter for enemy soldiers, he finds that Jamie has passed away. Looking at the young boy's lifeless body, Josey breaks down inside, reminded of his own son who died before ever truly seeing the world. Once again, Josey finds himself burying a child before moving on alone. His journey next brings him across an elderly Native American man named Lone Waddy, who also deeply despises the Union government. Recognizing a shared enemy, Lone Waddy provides Josey with shelter for the night. The next morning, Josey heads into a nearby trading post where he witnesses a cruel shopkeeper mercilessly beating a young Native American girl named Little Moonlight, whom he keeps as a servant. The shopkeeper goes inside where several Union men are drinking, and the men immediately corner the young girl to assault her. Josey steps into the room, and one of the men instantly recognizes him, shouting that there is a $5,000 reward for his capture. Before the men can even draw their weapons, Josey unleashes a lightning-fast draw, shooting the bounty hunters and the abusive shopkeeper dead. Josey leaves the post with Little Moonlight, reuniting with Lone Waddy. Josey asks Lone Waddy to look after the innocent, vulnerable girl, but Lone Waddy refuses to stay behind, insisting on joining Josey on his trek down south toward Texas. The trio journeys together until they reach a Texas town to gather vital supplies. There, Josey crosses paths with an elderly woman named Sarah Turner and her beautiful granddaughter, Laura Lee, though the women have no idea who he is. As Josey steps out of the store with his supplies, a local man recognizes him and screams his name to the entire town, alerting everyone to the $5,000 bounty. Three armed men instantly confront Josey, but he reacts in a flash, drawing his pistols and shooting all three dead on the spot, while Lone Waddy provides cover fire against the remaining crowd. They leap onto their horses and gallop out of town, but the local authorities temporarily detain Little Moonlight, warning her that she cannot leave. Soldiers are sent out to hunt down Josey and Lone Waddy, and shortly after, Captain Terrell arrives in the town alongside Fletcher. Seeing the dead bodies, Terrell realizes that Josey is not only alive, but that he is coming for him. Meanwhile, out in the wilderness, Lone Waddy senses someone tracking them and prepares an ambush, only for Josey to stop him at the last second when he realizes it is Little Moonlight, who bravely escaped the town to rejoin them. The three continue their journey until they reach a remote ranch where they discover a group of violent Comanche bandits attacking a homestead. The bandits have already slaughtered the ranch hands and are brutally torturing Sarah Turner and attempting to assault Laura Lee. Josey watches from the brush, ready to open fire, but pauses when the bandit leader orders his men to stop, arguing that a girl this beautiful can be sold for a high price, so they must keep her unharmed along with the horses. Just as Josey positions himself, a loose stone slips from Lone Waddy's hand, alerting the bandits, who quickly capture Lone Waddy and throw him in with the rest of the prisoners. Knowing he must save his companion, Josey ties a white cloth to a stick and walks calmly toward the bandits, pretending to surrender. The moment the overconfident outlaws let their guard down and approach him, Josey draws his weapons and guns them down one by one, saving Lone Waddy, Sarah, and Laura Lee. Armed with a fully stocked buggy and a newfound sense of community, the group travels together to a nearby town, where Josey walks into a local saloon, buys several bottles of whiskey, and generously shares them with the patrons. Suddenly, a bounty hunter recognizes him, but Josey calmly tells the man to take a bottle of liquor and walk away, wanting to avoid bloodshed. The hunter refuses and reaches for his gun, but Josey shoots him dead before he can clear his holster. One of the hunter's partners flees the saloon to alert the authorities, forcing Josey and his expanded group of followers to quickly leave town. They travel for hours until they reach a beautiful, deserted ranch house that once belonged to Sarah's late son. Sarah immediately begins cleaning, and together, this makeshift family works to transform the abandoned property into a safe, comfortable home. As Josey watches everyone happily working and cooking dinner together, he begins to feel deeply conflicted and angry with himself. He feels that by allowing himself to enjoy the warmth of a home, he is betraying the memory of his murdered wife and child. He reminds himself that he is a vengeful drifter who does not belong among peaceful people, and that his sole purpose is to hunt down the man who destroyed his life. As he sits isolated in his dark thoughts out in the yard, Sarah calls out to him. For the first time in years, someone addresses him not just as Wales, but by his true first name, Josey, inviting him inside to join the family in prayer. Josey finally steps out of his emotional darkness and joins them, but their peace is shattered when a bloody, wounded lone Wadi rides into the yard. He warns them that a fierce Comanche war party, led by a powerful chief named 10 Bears, has taken 2 of their men prisoner and surrounded the ranch. Josey looks up to see Chief 10 Bears watching from the ridgeline, knowing that a bloodbath could erupt at any moment since the Comanche are merciless to trespassers. Josey quickly instructs the family on where to hide inside the reinforced house and how to position their weapons to repel an attack. As he prepares to ride out alone, a worried Sarah asks him what he is doing, and Josey explains that he is going to speak with 10 Bears directly. He is determined to resolve this conflict by himself, refusing to let any more of his friends die. Impressed by his immense bravery, 10 Bears receives Josey peacefully. Josey speaks candidly to the chief, stating that both of them have lost far too many loved ones to useless wars, and that he does not want a pointless battle where they endlessly slaughter each other's friends. Josey offers a pact of peace, but adds that if 10 Bears still insists on shedding blood, the 2 leaders should fight one-on-one to decide the matter. Moved by Josey's honor and courage, 10 Bears smiles and declares that he does not want to fight such a brave man, proclaiming Josey his blood brother. They slice their palms, shake hands to seal the blood oath, and the Comanche peaceably return the prisoners and depart. When Josey returns to the ranch, the overjoyed family erupts into singing and dancing, and for the very first time, Josey doesn't isolate himself. He smiles and joins in the celebration. The next morning, however, the heavy reality of his life sets in, and Josey begins packing his gear to leave. When the devastated family asks why he is abandoning them, Josey softly explains that his world was destroyed long ago, but they have a chance to build a real future together. He knows the entire Union Army is hunting him, and if he stays, his presence will inevitably bring destruction to this new family, something he could never bear to witness again. Tears fill their eyes as Josey rides away, but he doesn't get far before Captain Terrell and his cavalry unit intercept him. Terrell laughs triumphantly, mocking Josey for finally being alone and trapped. But before the soldiers can fire, a barrage of gunfire erupts from the ranch house. The family has heavily fortified the perimeter, just as Josey taught them. A fierce battle ensues, and the family ruthlessly guns down Terrell's men from their hidden positions. Wounded and terrified as his men are wiped out, Terrell realizes he is completely defeated, leaps onto his horse, and flees at full speed. Fueled by years of absolute rage, Josey pursues him relentlessly across the plains. Eventually, Terrell's horse collapses, leaving him cornered on the ground as Josey slowly advances on foot. Looking at Terrell's face, the agonizing screams of his dying wife and son echo vividly in Josey's ears. Terrell desperately begs for his life, but Josey knows these haunting memories will never stop until the monster is dead. Josey draws his sword and drives it completely through Terrell, watching the life leave his eyes as his long quest for vengeance finally comes to an end. Sometime later, Josey rides into a town saloon, bleeding from his wounds, where he unexpectedly encounters Fletcher accompanied by 2 government deputies. Fletcher looks Josey straight in the eye, recognizes his old friend, and then turns to his deputies, ordering them to fill out a final report stating that the notorious outlaw Josey Wales was killed in a shootout alongside Captain Terrell. Josey stands frozen, surprised by the gesture, and looks into Fletcher's eyes, realizing that Fletcher deeply regrets the trap that killed their former comrades and wants to save the last surviving member of his old crew. As Fletcher prepares to ride out, he turns to Josey one last time and says, "Mr. Wilson, best of luck to you in your new life." Understanding that Fletcher has given him a clean slate and a fake name to protect him from the law, Josey watches him ride away. Turning his horse back toward the ranch and the family waiting for him, Josey rides off to begin his brand new life, bringing this epic story to a close. If this incredible story of ultimate cowboy justice, legendary gunslinging, and finding a family in the Wild West kept you completely hooked, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our family here at CinemaNed. Drop a like, share this video with your fellow movie lovers, and let me know your favorite scene in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.